This is the story of Joseph Gregory Hallett and his claim to the throne that Queen Elizabeth II was illegitimate and he was the true descendant of Anne Boleyn. The documentary was done with Digital Warrior Productions and David Mahoney. It's 5 or 6 parts and I'll fill you in on a little bit of those now.
One of the causations is that the British royal family has been flatlie royal since 1840.
Explain that.
Flatlie royal means illegitimate, not allowed on the throne. So, from the Battle of Waterloo, the British royal family lost all their money and they've been funded by the Rothschilds in exchange for breeding rights. So the Rothschilds had the breeding rights to the British royal family from 1819 to 2019.
So what was the purpose of the Rothschilds needing this?
The British royal family were virtually bankrupt from 1815.
I actually noticed on the production side of it, on my side of it, we had a few questions that people were sending us. And I thought it could be fun if we just went through some of these questions. One of the main ones was this sword that you talk about. Yeah. So explain that to me again now.
The sword was given to me at 10 p.m. on Leap Day 2012. And I was instructed to sleep with it and then hold it up to the castle that night.
What's the name of this?
That morning. It's the sword of the Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha.
But you see, I don't understand the significance of it.
It's the real sword of the King of England. Mahoney, get Vickers and Dawson and get yourselves down to Portugal.
We found a few things we need to ask you about. You told us to go digging, we dug. So we need to ask you about this bottle we found. All right, I'm going to get in there and...
There, I can see something
hang on.
Out.
That's got my claim to the ownership of the cave wrapped around the bottle.
Ah.
And I had it rolled up with a wax seal inside the bottle.
Well, we can't figure that out then, because Carrie found the title deed to the cave, and the bottle we found when we dug it up, the cork was out of the bottle.
Well, someone's dug it up and done something symbolic.
Now, today I'm answering the question, did Anne Boleyn actually survive her execution in 1536? And does the UK have a new monarch because of it? Now, for those of you who just want short and straight answers, I'll just say no and no. There you have it. For those of you wanting slightly longer answers, no poppycock, no absolute rubbish. There you go. Now, I've been receiving quite a few comments, messages and emails regarding a man named Joseph Gregory Hallett, who has proclaimed himself the UK's true monarch, King John III. According to the emails and comments that I've been receiving, the Pope has recognised him as king and the Queen has gone into hiding, and Prince William has actually abdicated in favour of Greg Hallett, as he calls himself. Now, this is not new. He's been around for a while and I came across him a few years ago. But Greg Hallett has re-emerged and he's renewed his claim to the throne. So what am I going on about? What is Hallett claiming? What is all this about? Well, I won't get into the religious predictions, the Holy Grail stuff, the Book of Predictions mumbo jumbo, and that's actually that's the most polite term I can think of to describe all the stuff on his website that is about those topics.
Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get into our next interview with Seeker of Truth and Justice. Okay, welcome to another episode of The Real Source with Mac and Jones. Today's guests are Seeker of Truth and Justice. Welcome, guys, to The Real Source.
Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Nice to be there, man.
The reason I got you guys on, I've been following your channel for a while, and I want to know a little bit of background about you guys, why you started your channels, and also kind of hit a little bit on the Greg Hallett situation. So can you tell us why you started your channels, guys?
Well, I started my channel a little while ago, and my main thing really is esoteric occult exposure and holding authorities to account as and where I can over different situations, and just, you know, documenting various experiences in that realm. With regards to the Greg Hallett thing, this whole COVID situation was popping off. I have no idea. I cannot remember for the life of me how I come across it, but when I did, instantly for me it was an occult exposure type thing, where this could either be like a guy that's just crazy and scamming people, or this could be the Antichrist, the 5780 false Messiah that the rabbis are talking about. So yeah, that was how I got into it. And my channel, yeah, it really is quite a broad ranging various subjects and stuff, but that's how I got into the Greg Hallett thing really initially. I made a couple videos, I think it was 2 or 3 videos, relating his claims to what was going on with Trump and Jared Kushner and the deal of the century and his involvement with Israel, and a lot of what the Hashishim, the high rabbis and the occultic rabbis were speaking about in terms of invoking this false Messiah. And so I was attacking it from that angle, just exposing the more esoteric side of his claims and stuff.
The difference between our channels is Justice has been doing this for a while and covers a whole range of things in the domain that I'm very interested about. But the reason I started my channel was literally because of Greg Hallett. Mental health came into play, and mental health is very important to me, and it's affected me personally, it's affected me in my professional life. And I saw people talking to me telling me they were affected, you know, not just affected by just knowing of it and being, oh well, that's a bit annoying or whatever. No, these people that were talking to me were saying, look, I've given this guy money, and you know, it's affected my relationship with my family. You know, things like this, deceptions, people selling a truth that's not true or is very questionable, and the people that listen to them. And this is why what Justice was talking about with Charlie Ward in his interview, and if you haven't seen that, please go and see it. He said, why, you know, what do you think about all these thousands, hundreds of thousands, in fact, people that are listening to your stuff? If you're not sure about this Gregory Hallett situation, which you've now admitted, but you're promoting it hard, what do you think about their mental health? And he said, well, I don't remember the exact words, Justice, if you can remind us, but it was something like, you know, the jellyfish or something. Yeah. If like, you know, if you're not strong enough to listen to these things, then it's your own fault for not having that mental capacity. And that was sickening for me.
He was heavily promoting it, wasn't he, in the beginning, in his videos? I did see some of Charlie Ward's videos. And he was...
I said to him directly, for me, he was the main promoter of it, not David Mahoney, not Greg himself, none of them. He had the biggest channel and he was putting all of the videos on his channel. It made his channel what it was essentially, and he agrees to that extent. So yeah, for me, he was the main promoter of that whole story. And on the mental health thing, you know, his thing with people being jellyfishes and flip-flopping around and stuff is that people should be strong enough to make up their own mind. But at the same time, he's still 50-50 on it. He has no idea. From the first interview he ever did to the 6th documentary piece, he's got no idea. He's still 50-50, the same as he was on the first day. So he hasn't made up his mind. But the bottom line is he doesn't care. So for anyone that doesn't care about what's actually going on, it's probably not the best place to be, you know.
The problem is you can't make your mind up when when the truths aren't being said, can you? You only get their false narratives there. I think I admire where you've both started from. I think we've watched quite a lot with Justice, and we've seen how much research goes into it, and obviously the knowledge that you speak as well. You can tell you've really looked into it in depth.
Basically, I've been looking into conspiracy theory for like 19 years, which is over half my life. Yeah. And for most of those years, especially considering a bulk of it, we didn't have social media as we have today. The only people I had to talk about it was friends and family, and most of those, and people will know this story, they'll be familiar with this story. You know, when they're in the same boat as me, is when you talk to your family and friends about some of the things that you're investigating, finding out, you know, researching. A lot of them treat you like you're crazy, you know. Treat you like you're crazy, or you know, they just don't want to talk about it, and that's what I found for a lot of that time. So I talked about it when I first found out about a lot of stuff. I say I found out about a lot of stuff. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. It's when I investigated that stuff. I talked to them about it, and they were like, "Nah, yeah, but you're crazy. You're an idiot." So I stopped talking to people about it. I researched hard for probably a decade without talking really to people about it. So coming into this year in particular, you know, you've got a lot of the people that made fun of you for being a tinfoil hat wearer, and suddenly they're saying, where we go one, we go all, and all this Q stuff, and they are suddenly awake or diet woke, as I might say, for some of them, and you just, you know, you kind of thinking to yourself, well, you know, it's not necessarily with the Q stuff, but you're thinking, I told you so. There's a bigger picture. So that's where I got to, and then I was researching, as I do. I branched out wide. I found out about this guy claiming that he was king of the world. I thought, what an interesting story, but pretty much instantly I found out he was lying, and then I was like, guys, he's lying. And then I found that his followers were like a cult. They were literally like, no, you're going to hell. You're the devil. I don't believe you. Go away. You're a paedophile. You're just anything to say. Look, if you
were you both attacked? Were you both attacked in that way about the Greg Hallett thing?
Oh yeah, yeah. From those individuals directly involved, you know, like David Mahoney give us some serious shit. Same with Greg. Greg's been on comment sections of ours asking for our real names for court reasons.
Yeah, we read something about that.
And yeah, like Em says, you know, the following that they did have is slowly diminishing, but at the peak, the responses that we were getting to the videos that we were putting out were they were disgusting, to be honest. Like, it's not the sort of thing, especially when it wouldn't be so bad if it's coming from, you know, ignorant right wingers or even, you know, super hardcore leftists or something. But when it's people that profess to be woke and are doing their own research and they're going down their own rabbit hole or whatever it is that they're doing, it kind of hurts more, you know. I don't know.
I agree.
So was it to the point where you were actually removing comments from YouTube, or were you just leaving everything on there?
That wasn't us.
I would
that was them.
Okay.
All this information that we shared to try and help people. So the last part of the story I didn't tell you was that after researching, finding out, and telling these people that, you know, he's not genuine, obviously we got a backlash. And then I made a network of people that were seriously affected, as I said. People who ended up joining this group were part of Greg's family, his sisters, his friends from high school, you know, people that were close to him in his past. But not only that, I was also then directed to the videos, because at that point, I thought me and my group were all alone fighting this. And they were like, okay, well, there's this guy called Justice that's done this video. So this is how I ended up meeting Justice. Was the people that were helping me with research and things were like, yeah, this guy is attacking it too, and that's how us guys met. And from there, you know, Just Truth was born. Basically, us two started collaborating. I looked into the fact that he'd already had some runnings with David Mahoney.
Right.
So here's the guy with Digital Warrior Productions, right? He was the guy behind the Greg Hallett Productions.
Yeah, that's his company, Digital Warrior Productions. So yeah, David Mahoney's is, as you guys probably know, he's an actor, director, producer, you name it, he is it. He's a fixer, you know, he gets cars in certain places for certain movies and what have you, apparently. And he took it upon himself to make this documentary, apparently finance it himself. He says that he's invested 50,000 euros, I guess, into it.
Of someone else's money, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he says it's his own personal savings. Me and Em have talked about it briefly, and we couldn't really work out how 50 grand would have been spunked on that production, really. Yeah. And we've heard a lot of stories as well about people that have been to the castle where Greg was initially, and David, spending out on takeaways for everyone and splashing the cash and showing off, which, you know, does seem to be a bit like his character. But yeah,
sounds like the UK government a little bit, doesn't
it? When he was doing the Hidden King books, and when, you know, he'd done many books before claiming he was king, then he did the Hidden King series of books, which were basically telling the world that the royals are illegitimate, which is quite possibly something to look into. However, then he was saying that this guy called Francisco Manuel, was the real king of England. Now, and that he had been given the title of Lord Chancellor. So he was pushing that, and he was trying to get, I've got videos of him trying to get to Buckingham Palace, trying to get to 10 Downing Street to deliver these series of letters saying, look, Francisco Manuel is the king. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, his popularity rises. He's saying that he's the king. There's no mention of Francisco Manuel anymore. David Mahoney, he was an actor, and, you know, he's been part of Hollywood films and things like that, you know, and he's wanting to make a documentary on this. He meets Charlie Ward, who says he's like an insider, and people are saying that he's basically being paid by the CIA, saying that he's heard all this stuff about Nazara Gazara and this great financial reset, and he's got insider information, which both me and Justice have addressed as well in our videos. And it's also met this guy called Jack Kidd, and Jack Kidd's the one that introduced them to the other two. So this is a group of
so Jack Kidd is Jodie Kidd's brother, right? She's
not only Jodie Kidd's brother. Yeah, Jodie Kidd people might know and recognise, but he's also got another sister called Gemma Kidd, and this is one of the ways that I found out about Justice. He made a video on Gemma Kidd, so I'll let Justice tell you what he found.
What did you find, Justice?
Yeah, that whole network is pretty shady, you know, from the direct dealings that we've had with Mahoney and Charles Ward and the rest of them. You know, it's a pretty tight-knit circle from what we can gather. Really, they're all meeting up all the time. But yeah, Jack Kidd has a sister, Gemma Kidd, who's got a makeup company, and there's only 6 directors, I think, maybe even less. There might be 5. One is obviously herself, Gemma Kidd, then Jack Kidd, and Ghislaine Maxwell is one, and then 2 other random people.
Ghislaine Maxwell, who was okay.
This goes deep, real deep.
Obviously, there was a pretty direct link there between Joseph Gregory Hallett, Jack Kidd, and then Ghislaine Maxwell. So that's what the video was about, essentially. I mean, there wasn't any accusations thrown in there. It was just what it is. But yeah, there was quite a bit of backlash from that video. And
that's interesting.
I think Jack Kidd's recently addressed it relatively recently, saying that he had no idea that Ghislaine Maxwell was a director also, which I find hard to believe. I don't really believe that, because he also says that his sister has definitely met her, but he hasn't. And I'm just thinking, well, how would you know that they get along if you don't even know you directed the same country?
It's a little bit dodgy, isn't it?
If he was a director of a company,
Jack is involved in the polo circle. He was a professional polo player, and obviously that's a high-class aristocratic sport. It's not something that you just stumble into one day because you're really athletic, talented.
Yeah.
And he's met, so he's friends with David de Rothschild through polo. But not only that, Jacob Rothschild is connected to the Gemma Kidd company as well. So there you have it on paper, connected to Rothschilds. However, not only that, you know, me and Justice separately both interviewed Charlie Ward. And when I asked Charlie Ward about Jack Kidd, he then did say, look, he is connected to the royal family, but he just wants to get out of that circle of people. So I didn't even expect that. You know, I was wanting to talk about Rothschild connection, they claim Maxwell connection. He's like, no, he's connected to the royal family. Not only that, you know, his father was a guy called Lord Beaverbrook, who owned multiple of the mainstream newspapers back in the day, and obviously probably still does in connection with his family. However, not only that, he was the Minister of Propaganda, I think it was, and many other titles during World War II under Winston Churchill. So we're talking literally that this guy is very much connected to the establishment. This establishment that people are saying that is be wary of, and that is dark forces that are running the world. So when you're coming to, oh, this is a new king, this is a fresh start, this is someone else, this is breaking away from the establishment, or the people that are supporting him are connected very much so. So that's dodgy in itself. Not to mention the Rosicrucian connection.
I think that admission from Jack Kidd though leads to quite an exposure of his intentions, possibly. You know, he's involved with that side of things. There's an interview that was on Charlie Ward's channel that I think it was the first one, maybe, that was it was just Charlie and Jack Kidd. Obviously all his videos are gone now, but he says in it something like you know, all of the powers that shouldn't be doing all these horrible crimes, they've been exposed, but we almost got away with it. It was a really weird kind of yeah, it was strange, but at the same time, obviously, he's involved with them and he's trying to push the story of this new guy who's got the right to be king and infiltrate the palace and be our new ruler, which, you know, to me, that's quite a strange, and it's the same with Charles Ward as well. You know, he's had times in interviews where he said, I'm a royalist. I'm a self-confessed royalist. I quite like the royal family. I like the idea of a monarchy. Now, to say that at the same time as trying to push for a new king and saying that actually the whole royal family is really evil, it's one or the other. You can't.
It's weird, isn't it? Do you think
it's a contradiction?
Do you think it was just about creating such a big mass hysteria that they could just try and coin as much money as they can out of people, or was it just literally to send people on different tracks so no one knows what's real and what's not anymore?
Personally, they've all got their own individual getting involved, and I think most of it is just ego and power through influence. Charles Ward probably wasn't expecting his channel to grow as much as it did, and that first video it was titled "The New King of UK," and it was like over 100,000 views in a week. He had over 100,000 subscribers, and from there he kept going and kept going, and I feel like he was probably felt obligated to keep helping them and keep pushing that, since it was what got him there in the first place, no matter how much he personally still believed it, even if he did in the first place. And I think with David Mahoney it's much the same, whereas it's an ego thing. You know, he got himself in this mess. He spent probably not 50k, but even if he spent 20k of his own money, or
that's a lot of money. I think it's important to mention at this point as well that not only that, but Charlie Ward had, you know, grown his shadow from this, whatnot, just as like Justice said. However, after that, he claims that David Mahoney, his very good friend, like maybe best friend or whatever, had said, "Can I do a documentary?" And if you guys have watched the documentary, you will see that there's a lot of money. It's not 50k, but a lot of money has gone into that. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money. And considering that David and probably some of the other people that worked on this live in Spain, and they've come to Norfolk and got hold of Greg and put him in this, which is probably cost a lot of money to rent out that estate. You know, so it did cost a lot of money. The documentary looks very professional. So they've done this documentary. They've put all their eggs in this basket. And Charlie Ward is his best friend. And Charlie Ward is a guy who apparently commissioned this. But as Charlie explains, he just said, "No, David, go ahead. You can make this documentary." So after David's made this documentary, these guys didn't really look into this guy. They just thought, how interesting is this? Is the guy saying he's going to be a king? He's going to be the king of England. So they make this documentary, and then people like me and Justice look into it and pull this guy apart, and he's obviously not who he says he is. oh shit, I've just spent 20 grand on this, or 50 grand, as he says, you know. And then he's saying to Charlie, I'm guessing, Charlie, you know, just don't fuck me over here. let's just go with it. You know, might be genuine, he might not be genuine.
Yeah.
And we're going, no, but we've done all this research. He's linked to Ghislaine Maxwell. He was in a sex cult that was shut down because of paedophilia. I've looked into his lineage, and it's not true. There's so many discrepancies, and this, that, and the other, literally instantly, and not just me and Justice, but our friends as well, and other people outing this guy. And not only David thinking, shit, I've just spent, as he says, 50 grand, but maybe 20 grand or whatever he spent on it. But then he's saying probably to his friend Charlie Ward, who's gained 100,000, nearly 200,000 by the time we last checked, viewers since then. And he's saying, don't screw me over here, you know. And I think it got to the point later on where there were certain videos made, and Charlie had made an admission that they knew that Greg wasn't actually the original bloodline to the throne, that someone else was, and that caused a major stir. And Dave Mahoney, obviously at that point being his main promoter at that point and spending so much money on it, that I bet they had a bit of a tiff. And yeah, I think that Charlie has then had the dilemma eventually, especially around the point where we did the interviews with him, where he's had to go, you know, David, you're a good mate of mine, but people are going to ruin me if I carry on with this story.
Well, he's created the Insiders Club now, isn't he? And he's got a ton of money coming in from that. So he's quids in, I guess, from all of this thing.
At first, I was kind of, you know, this is probably up to like a month ago. It was kind of hard to see, or probably a bit longer than a month, but it was hard to see how really he would be making any sort of income from this YouTube thing and whatever else was going on. This Inside the Club thing popped up, and he's talking about 800 people spending like 11 euros a month. He's raking it in, you know. There's a good few thousand people that have joined that now, I can guarantee.
Not only that, Justice, but he was what, on 172k or something before he shut down his channel?
Easily.
Yeah. So now he's saying something like he's got 280k followers on that. Where is it? ButChute or his own channel? He's saying that he's literally since then, that whole promotion, and so he's literally like expanded his following so much because, oh, my channel was shut down because I was telling the truth, and here's my new channel, which he was promoting months before, and on both of our videos was saying soon I'll be shut down by the people in power, so come to my site and you can pay there.
He's very clever at marketing his stuff, you know. I mean, the way that he shut down his channel wasn't so clever, and I wish I'd have kind of exposed that a little bit better, but it is what it is, and it was what it was, and he definitely didn't get shut down. That's something.
I think he might have had a warning, I guess, and then he just panicked and fled.
He got a strike. I was going to do the interview, an interview with him on the week that he got the strike originally, and I believe that he got a strike. Then the week after, he was ill, but there is no reason that he would have got the third strike for his channel to get deleted because he didn't have any videos on there. He took them all down. There was no content, and I asked the guys at Be Nosy and his other friends if they had any proof of. He's
got a new channel now on
email.
YouTube, right?
No, he's got 3 channels. When he lost his first one, which we know he didn't because he got 2 strikes, and then he deleted all his videos. But Justice, what did he still have on there? He deleted all of his
wedding and his. I think he removed some of his child, Justin, but they were like before that. There was videos of Justin dancing, like
using his kid like that to promote the beginning of the videos was a bit weird. I'm honest.
You guys know there's like those weird TikTok challenges and stuff where the weird dances and that, and jump out of cars and go alongside the cars. His wife was doing that to like some Drake tune or something. It was super weird, you know. I couldn't. It was. Imagine Charlie sat there just filming his missus while he's driving, doing this little dance thing out the side. It was so funny. I wish I'd have.
Weird. What about the fact that he always said in his videos that he had someone on the inside of the White House? who was feeding him information.
Q, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that was a bit weird as well.
If that's actually happening, right? It's someone fucking pulling his leg. Is what I'm saying. Someone is saying, look, I'm on the inside.
You talked about some books that you wrote as well, this Gregory Hallett. Now, there was a documentary called Britain's Real Monarch, which is narrated by Tony Robinson. And that guy was Michael Edward Abney Hastings, who was the 14th Earl of Loudon. He apparently was supposed to be the true heir to the throne, right? In that documentary.
Yeah.
Where does the royal family live? You might think it's here, but you'd be wrong. In fact, they live here. And their name certainly isn't Windsor. I've made a startling discovery. There's good evidence that's recently come to light that back in the Middle Ages, one of the kings of England was illegitimate. And if that's so, it means that every king and queen of our country since shouldn't by rights have sat on the throne. But if not them, then who? Well, I've traced the real royal family, the bloodline that's been robbed of its inheritance. And I've discovered the person alive today who should be Britain's reigning monarch.
Yeah, I don't dispute that claim. However, he did pass away. Not only before he passed away, he did say that he didn't want anything to do with the crown. I don't know if you've seen it. But
is there any link? Is there a link between Hallett and him?
No.
No, there's no link. Right.
No.
If there was a guarantee, he would have drawn on it. But again, I mean, this is one of Charles Ward's main points about why he's pushed this, is because the current royal family isn't acceptable. They're not good people, even though he kind of supports them and doesn't like them and does quite like them. But aside from that, they're not good people. They're of the dark side. They're evil. And no one has ever questioned the royal family except for Tony Robinson in 2006, whenever it was. But he claims that no one's ever questioned the royal family. Not that, there's been arrest warrants out for the Queen from long. People have known about certain dealings that the royal family have been involved in for the longest amount of times. But according to him, the main point of really pushing this isn't that Greg is going to be the next king or whatever. It's not about that. It's about no one's ever questioned the royal family.
Exposure.
But he must have just missed this whole Tony Robinson documentary, because that was a mainstream documentary. It's not like hidden or anything. And on that, there's other claims to the throne. There's the Crown Prince of Liechtenstein has a legitimate claim to the throne through blood lineage. Not that he would necessarily make that claim, or that anything would ever come of it, or that it would make any difference to our lives. But in terms of the lineage and how this all pans out, there are other totally legitimate claims that don't come from illegitimate claims that like Gregor's made. It's there's a whole array of people that could claim to have links, and they have, to be fair, through our group. There's a lot of people that have a lot of
I was just crossing my mind then, to be honest.
There's a lot of people with ancestors that could lend him a helping hand to.
Yeah, he said he was. What did he say? That he was the ascendant of Anne Boleyn. That was what Greg Hallett said, right?
Yeah, Queen
Anne Boleyn. So this instantly was a big question point. So when I started looking into it, basically people are saying, "Look, have you seen his documents?" So it's got this site, which has now changed its domain, but at the time it was kingof.uk. And if you go on there, he's got so many documents.
It's a lot. I've seen them.
And you've seen it yourself, yeah. So they're all written on this coffee-stained paper, and they're written, and he basically spends pages upon pages of this explaining the titles that he's claiming, and then he spends pages upon pages telling you about the people that he has addressed these documents to. It meant nothing, because he obviously hadn't sent these to these people. So the first time that you get to think that he sent them anywhere good is on the third part of the documentary that they made. And they then explain at the end of that, Gregory Hallett has submitted these documents to the common law courts of Great Britain, and the Queen has to the 21st of, I think it was July, to respond. And if she doesn't respond, then through acquiescence, which is a word he likes to use, which basically means through not responding, that Greg then has the throne and he could walk into Buckingham Palace as which, so when he said that, we were like, right, okay, it's got 20, 30 days, right? How brilliant is it going to be? 20, 30 days time. These guys are all saying, like, you wait 20 days time, you guys are going to be eating your words. This is back in July. So, not to mention, back in June, he was saying, well, they're just painting Buckingham Palace for me. So I'm ready to walk in and, all my away and say hello. And the guys were saying that's going to happen at the end of July. You guys are going to eat your words. End of June, July, whatever it was happens.
For the most part, I always found those dates come around to be a bit of an anticlimax, to be honest, because the supporters that were so sure, the date comes around and they're still convinced. They're just convinced something got in the way, because of course it.
What got in the way? So 20 was it 20th of July, and then it happened, and we were all like, "What's happened, Greg? Where's your crowning? Where's your acceptance as king?" Oh, well, the Royal Mail fucked it up. They sent it to the wrong Kremlin. It didn't go to President. It didn't go to Putin. And so that was the initial explanation. So we were like, okay, that's a really bad explanation. But even if it was true, how long are they going to take to sort that out? And before they could sort that out, of course, there was this whole EU withdrawal document and all that stuff. And then David Mahoney was like, well, the documents didn't matter anymore because there was a whole new thing going on. Of course there is, David.
That's a bit like the end of the world dates, isn't it? Like 2020, when everyone stands there waiting for the world to reset and then it never happens and they come out with another load of bullshit.
There must have been a lot of money. There must have been a lot of money kind of being taken from people. I saw that there was a PayPal set up or some kind of way to donate to Greg. I mean, these people are probably never going to get their money back. I wouldn't have thought so.
He had gained a lot of money, and he'd done this before claiming himself to be king. And that's what his sisters, his family tell us. However, during this king situation, he took a lot of money. Not only that, Dave Mahoney and Charlie Ward were taking donations. Charlie Ward did shut his donations down. Dave Mahoney does claim that he never set that up. But Greg Hallett did gain a lot of money at the height of his popularity. And this is why it's important. People say, oh, he's not relevant. Why even bothering? Because, he did take thousands of, the first example is when he took 2,000, when he was first getting popular, he asked for donations. He got £2,700 almost immediately from people following him. And he said he was using that to process his documents. Then he put out a post saying, but my server was being attacked by the deep state. So I spent the 2,700 because that's how much it cost.
The deep state.
I was asking, I spent that on my server. So I need another 2,700 guys, right? And the thing is, we attacked that, rightfully so. Why are you asking for money if you're meant to be the real king? Even if you don't have you are associated with people with lots of money. Why do you need this money, right? But not only that, now literally he went missing for a month. He went missing between the 11th of September to, I think it was the 29th of October. And during that time, we were calling them out saying, where is Greg Hallett? And all of his fans were going, yeah, but where is Greg Hallett? Come on, stick up for us. Go and shoo these shills, Justice and M-Seeker away. He didn't turn up. Well, he did turn up on the 29th of October, making a video about Jacob's pillow, him looking for a stone in the woods. eventually, and this is after we put a lot of accusations and a lot of questions out, which he didn't want to answer.
But they won't get caught up. They won't get caught up and cross my path, mate. If they're telling the truth, they won't bother. They won't be subject to wrath.
You can never.
Maybe after.
You can never be backed into a corner, can you? When you tell the truth.
No, maybe it's going to be over for Greg Hallett now. After this, you're releasing the third part of the documentary, right?
Documentary, yeah. So it was always my goal to, the reason I started so I didn't actually explain this earlier. So you said about my YouTube channel. I started it because of that, but that's not what I want to do. I am actually bored of Greg Hallett.
Well, hopefully this is closure. This is the end now.
I'm bored of this stuff, man. But who's in better position than us two guys, So
yeah, you've got a platform now.
From the side of the esoteric situation, from the side of the fact, clashing with Mahoney, from the side that Justice got his head screwed on, and for me, from the side of I've networked and successfully not only got his family and friends in interview, but we've also found people like Justice and put us all together and then created a documentary, between us, not just me and him as well, through others as well,
Usually when it comes to exposure, people have to kind of make enough of a drop in the ocean for me to bother wanting to address it, Obviously, that guy is claiming to be a Kingsman isn't in that category as such. Funny about it is, and I think what people like about it as well is that it kind of encapsulates the following that he had and the types of people that are really, really still invested in it. And the fact that it supports delusions. And also I feel like that kind of points to why people were kind of invested in it in the first place, is that it fits in with their narrative, whether they are hardcore QAnon followers or not, whether they just hate the royal family or just want a breath of fresh air, whatever it is, it fits in with their narrative and how they're feeling and what they want to happen, their will. It fits in with what they wish to happen. So, yeah, that's right. And then they want to go along with it, and they feel like that dude there really encapsulated a lot of the following that they had initially in terms of, their cult type mentality. And yes, I'm gonna start a secret freaking intelligence service and call it Kingsman.
It's Kingsman.
He's working in Tesco's.
Superman ripping off his shirt.
Hula was funny as well. I mean, it was intense for you guys. I could see just watching it. I felt kind of tense watching it because I could just see how much they were trying to play. And but the video footage was just unreal, like just absolutely unreal. I was quite shocked when I seen it, and I was quite shocked that people would be that brain dead that they'd even kind of subscribe to that, to be honest, in regards to
people seem to believe in a lot of crazy shit right now. The world has gone a little bit mad, I think.
There's two. I think it's split 50-50. I find the people that are awake and the people that have got a conscience are a lot less egotistical. So they don't need to prove anything, It just seems to be. It just doesn't seem to be. They don't seem to speak out as much as we do. That's all.
Well, I was going to say off the back of the last little conversation there that I think with a lot of people that are coming into these realms of thought now in this time of COVID, like M says he's been researching conspiracy stuff for 19 or so years. I've been doing it for 10 or so, which is a large proportion of my life. To come into these realms of thought now must be such an overwhelming thought process. I can't even imagine it, coming into being totally fine with how life is, thinking everything is normal, and coming to realize that actually nothing is how you thought it was in the middle of this whole pandemic situation. I have no idea where your brain would be at, but I think that obviously coming into those realms, it makes you accept that certain things you might not have thought possible before are highly possible, and if not probable, and therefore you have to attack things with an open mind. But I feel like that open-mindedness for a lot of these people leads to them being drawn to figureheads like Charlie Ward, like Huna Flash, who say either mystical things or secret intel-based things with authority, them can provide information and certified real research backed with whatever it is we're trying to say. But these figures don't really have to do that. They can just say mystical things or things that are, secret intel based with authority. And as long as it fits with people's narrative of how they think things should be going, then it's fine. They seem to attract a following. People, even if they don't believe them, they seem to have an overriding intrigue that these people have something to give them.
Hollywood all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the new Hollywood, the new form of entertainment. Hopium sellers. It's selling people a dream and a new way of life in times when, a new way of life is coming for everyone. I don't think there's escape. That's what I mean with regards to you guys asking what we're doing next, sort of thing. My channel really, through the COVID pandemic at least, before that, a lot of esoteric exposure and the like, etc. But through this, it's a lot of just again, mental health stuff, navigating these times, different news reports and drawing truth from mainstream sources. They have to give us veiled truth a lot of the time, so I can dissect things from that. And it's just going to be about navigating how we go through these times. These waves that are being created can't really be stopped as far as I'm concerned. The things that are going to happen and are going to take place are pretty certain to take place, and it's just how we manage to navigate through these waves and manage to keep on surviving. When it comes to mental health, not to get too off topic, but I was talking to someone the other day, and I think everyone is really focused on speaking about mental health and happiness. And for me at this time, we're in a state of warfare. This is a mental war. It's get much more serious than this, than the oppression and the fear-induced trauma that's being spread amongst the population. For a lot of people, if you're stuck in a trench and there's bullets flying past your head and there's bombs going off, it makes sense as to why you're traumatized. People that are raising young families in these times and coming into these realms of thought of things aren't quite how they thought they were at this time, that is going to induce a certain level of trauma, but people don't associate it with any actual action because there isn't any action. Everyone's locked inside. What's causing this trauma? There isn't any.
You literally can't see your enemy, can you?
No. But at the same time, I was speaking to someone that's really struggling with mental health the other day. They was going to their doctor and getting antidepressants and stuff, and I was speaking to them just about their general thoughts around this stuff. And it is a person that's come into these realms of thought quite recently. And I was just saying to them that really, for me, like I said, it's a time of warfare essentially. And you wouldn't expect to see someone in the trenches in the middle of war worrying about how happy they are. It's not about happiness, it's about survival. That's something that's a luxury that we don't all have at this minute. It's about survival first and foremost. And
it's going to be an interesting 2021, right?
22, 23, 24.
2020.
Might be a bit more clearer.
I don't know. I reckon it's going to take longer to iron itself out, perhaps years.
I think when I speak of these waves and stuff, people's hopes are being built up with even them suggesting that people can mix at Christmas and that, it gives people the idea that they can control this well enough to say, yeah, you can do this at this time, you can do this at this time. So people have this hope building up to New Year that come, 1st of January 2021, the government are going to say, yeah, there's no more corona, it's all gone, we can all go back to normal, everything's fine. Whether they believe that or not, that is a overriding hope that the society, the normal people out there that are just going about their business, they are feeling that, heading towards Christmas, heading towards New Year, it is pure hope that everything in 2021 is just gonna, and that's an energy that it affects people. It needs to be somewhat combated. I feel it's not something that's helpful to people, especially if that's not how it's going to be, which I don't think it is.